We start off with Tesla's big investor day. Execs, including Elon Musk, just taking the stage in Austin to lay out his long-term goals for Tesla, his expansion plans, a whole lot more. Musk started this event about 30 minutes later than most were expecting. Phil LeBeau has been monitoring all the action. Phil.
Melissa, the first 30 minutes of this has been Elon Musk talking about his vision for the world becoming sustainable in terms of energy and what is possible and what he believes is possible. This is very much 20,000 feet looking down at what is possible, breaking away from fossil fuels. There has been no news so far that is germane to Tesla investors. In other words, they haven't talked about future production plans, future models, etc. They are just starting to get to that point, and I suspect within the next 15, 20 minutes, we may have some news. We're going to go back into watching the rest of the Investor Day. Melissa, as soon as we have something, we'll send it back to you.
Yeah, he is talking, though, Phil, about the switch to iron-based cells in electrification. I thought that was interesting because that's a shift that's already going on in China in terms of using lithium iron phosphate batteries. But
absolutely,
that's not. I mean, that's a longer-term thing for sure.
Longer term, and that's all this has been so far in terms of this is where we could go, not just Tesla, but the entire global energy ecosystem, if you will, 10, 20, 30 years down the road. So we're still waiting for the specifics that relate to Tesla, and as soon as we have any, we'll let you know.
Thank you, Phil. Phil LeBeau monitoring all the action there at the Investor Day. The stock holding steady in the after-hours session, just down fractionally after a 1.5% decline in today's session. What do you think?
Yeah, so listen, part 3 of this master plan, all good stuff. I mean, those are things pushing, I think, the world to a place I think we all want to be less dependent on fossil fuels. And I think Elon, if you want to give him the most credit for anything that he has done over the last 15 years, I think it has been that. I would just say the here and now, though, when you look at this stock, okay, it's had this huge run off of those lows. And when I think about this, I go back to 2019 when the company on a GAAP basis was still unprofitable. Their gross margins were 17%. Okay, in 2022, they topped out about 25%. They're expected to go down this year to 22%. The stock has been cut in half from their late 2021 highs. So what's interesting to me, year over year, earnings this year are expected to be flat, okay, despite revenues supposed to be up 25%. We know that they cut prices dramatically on many of their models. I still think that that earnings estimate for this year is really under pressure here, given those price increases, and especially if we see the sort of economy that I believe we're going to see in the back half of this year and some of the issues that they have in China. So to me, the here and now, I think the stock is still really expensive here, and I think the earnings this year are still pretty vulnerable.
So I don't disagree with Dan on it being expensive here. It had that run up 100 points. I sold my stock that I bought around 100, sold it up around 200. Then I got sucked back in because there was a gap in the chart up to 230. So I'm not totally against the overbought issue, but look at what happened with Rivian. Look at what happened with Fisker. Look at what happened to all these other stocks. Even in
Lordstown, Ford.
What?
Lucid,
yeah.
Lordstown, Ford, yeah.
And Ford, exactly. So Ford is a mainstay company. So on a relative basis, they look like they're knocking it out of the park. And it's too consensus for me to think after Investor Day that it trades down 8 to 10%. That's what it always does. That's what everyone knows it always does. Maybe this time is different.
Wait, so you're going to go, so consensus is that, and so you're going to go anti-consensus by holding it long, thinking it's not going to go down after Investor Day.
I'm hoping.
Even though it moved according to consensus into Investor Day, it's not going to move according to consensus afterwards?
But it didn't really, it wasn't consensus. It was the after move off of that 106, 100 level that really kind of made it pop higher. So for me, it came in from about 214 or so, all the way down to 200. So I think it sucked out a lot of that overbought, and I think you have another shot, and maybe it pops.
Right. But what you mentioned in terms of the other EV makers, I mean, granted, they're startups. Some of them have decent balance sheets, like Rivian. Rivian cut its forecasts, right? Lucid can't sell cars. People don't want those cars. Ford is having difficulties. Stellantis talked about, having to get costs down. It's not an easy industry, even for the legacies, to break into. Doesn't Tesla make themselves seem just head and shoulders above the rest because of where they are? And by the way, their balance sheet is not bad.
Right.
Right. All that's true. I know. Are you saying that as that should be a headwind to Tesla or a tailwind that nobody else can do it like Tesla can?
That they're having more difficulty. That the competition was always in the bear case, but the competition is having difficulty.
Some of the yes, I think though, but we'll see the competition evolve more, and I think that of that handful of names that you put out there, we won't have 5 fingers left on that handful in, I don't know, 2 years maybe. But I think that still the competition is coming. And I mean, to me, I don't know how much of the 102 to 202, how I understand what you're saying, that last 12 points down, but that's, 100 points up. How much of that is into the meeting? Right. That might be a fair amount of meeting.
And just think that where Dan started off, where Tesla came from originally, though, to get down to 100.
It never should have been there.
Exactly.
Okay, I accept that it never should have been there. I think that was sort of peak anti-Elon sentiment, and when he was, seeming to isolate part of his potential customer base. Let's just say that. Dan says it a different way, but it's pretty much the same point. So I think that was sort of max Elon. He's Elon being difficult. He's sort of really pulled that back in. So we'll see. It's interesting they would start a half hour late. I don't know why. What's that about? It's like a fashion show.
They just start earnings like almost an hour late a couple of times. I mean, so it's I don't know.
Okay. You guys are forgetting he's the CEO of Twitter, of SpaceX, of the Boring Company, of Neuralink. Oh, and also a $650 billion market cap company called Tesla. Okay, so 30 minutes late. That's fine. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I think what's interesting, you guys are bringing up competition and how maybe competition is having just as hard of a time because they are coming at a later stage than Tesla. But that was interesting. There was actually just a survey where I think it was Rivian actually had higher customer satisfaction than a Tesla. So I think some of the question is, what do consumers want to buy? And Tesla has this really big push right now where they're trying to get 20 million vehicles sold by 2030.
And it's also only 8 customers at Rivian.
Right,
so it wasn't hard to knock it out of the park for those 8.
But it is a really ambitious goal for them, considering, I mean, Tesla right now is the largest selling automaker. They had 10.5 million units sold last year, and Tesla's trying to get to 20 million in 2030. So that's assuming they're selling a lot of cars. It's not that distant in the future, and the demand has to be there for that. And I think that's where, I don't know if they officially announced their Mexico plant yet, but they would need that to get to that kind of production. But the demand has to be there, and I don't know if I quite seeing that match up yet.
I mean, Elon Musk said he would need about a dozen factories to get to that target. So that's a lot of CapEx spend. Yeah. Again, this is going on right now as we speak. The only other headline that has come out so far as we can see, is that the Cybertruck is coming out in 2023, which is basically reaffirming the forecast date from before. But we'll keep you posted on any other developments here.